Hey guys, Chad Trades here. In this video, I want to show you my 90% win rate scalping strategy with real back-tested results. A lot of these trades I took myself over the past few months or so. Now, before we get into this, I want to let you know that this does not set up every single day, which is why it has such a high win rate, but you will see this set up a few times a week, right? Maybe 2 times a week, maybe once per week. So I personally like to have a few different setups I do trade, but when I see this particular setup that I'm going to be showing you in this video, I always take it with a lot of confidence going into the trade because of how well this specific strategy works. Let's dive straight into it. All right, so I call this setup the opening range failed breakout. Okay, so what it does is it trades the 15-minute opening range, but it's not the normal opening range that you probably hear about where you're trading the breakout. This is trading the failed breakout. Okay, so you're basically doing the opposite of what most people are doing. You hear it all the time, the orb, right? That stands for opening range breakout. What we're doing is we're doing the opposite. We're trading the failed breakout. Okay, so we're looking for the breakout to fail and then trading it back down to the other side of the opening range. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to mark out the 15-minute opening range. So that's looking at the first 15 minutes of the New York session, looking at the high and the low of those first 15 minutes and marking those areas with horizontal lines. The next thing you're doing is you're going to wait for one side to act like it's going to fake out, or actually this should say breakout. Okay, so you're looking for one side to act like it's going to break out, but then you're going to wait for it to flip directions, and then you're going to wait for confirmation that you're going to enter the trade and trade it to the other side of the opening range. Okay, so this is the criteria that I personally follow for this. All right, so let's break down how this actually works and show you some examples just day by day. I'm not going to cherry pick days or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to NQ. This is what I like to trade. Obviously, you can trade this on ES as well. If you look at these green and red lines, this is the first 15 minutes of price action. There's lots of indicators that can do this for you. I do have my own indicator that plots this out for me, so you can see pretty much every day it'll mark the high and low of the first 15 minutes of the New York Open. Okay, so we're just going to go day by day and we're going to see some examples here. So first thing we're doing is we're looking at the highs and lows of the first 15 minutes. So you can see this is the low at 7:33 my time, and the high was right here at 7:42, and then 7:45 was right here. So the first 15 minutes, again, just marking the lows and the highs. That is the first step to the setup. Now, I do want to add in on here that you should only trade this specific setup with the 15-minute trend, okay? So what I like to do is pull up another chart, for example, and all you're going to do is pull up a 15-minute time frame. And what I like to do is pull up these EMA bundles. So if you just type in EMA on a 15-minute time frame, add this one. So 20, 50, 100, and 200. So basically these EMAs on the 15-minute time frame will show you kind of the flow of the market. You can kind of think of it as like a river. So obviously trading with the flow of the river, the flow of the market is going to just be a lot more high probability. So you can see before the market opens, we can see that all these EMAs are pointing up. The market is flowing up. Okay, so in this case, I would only want to look for failed breakouts to the downside, and I could trade it long once it flips directions. Okay, so for example, if we go into today, we can't count this as the attempted breakout because we're still within the first 15 minutes. Okay, so we have to wait till 7:45 or 9:45 Eastern time, which is right here. As you can see, we acted like we were going to break out long, but then we didn't and we went down. But again, I do not want to trade short because the flow of the market is pointing up. So in this case scenario, but this would be an example, like we look like we're breaking out on the high side, we wait for confirmation and we trade it back down to the other side. Okay, so that's kind of how this would look like. So now a few minutes later, like 15 minutes later, we almost acted like we're faking out to the downside, and then we ended up, pushing back up. Now, me personally, I do have a rule where I have to see it at least, come very close to the line, and it can even come out, a little bit below the line too. So sometimes it'll look like this, and then it'll flip, right? And then I would get long somewhere right here, and I'd put my stop below the lows and trade it to this next side of the orb. So today, I personally did not trade this because we didn't get close enough to that bottom line. But for example, if you look at ES, right? Let me just go to ES, the S&P 500. okay? And we can see that it did this on ES pretty much perfectly. Okay, we have the high and the low of the first 15 minutes. Then we acted like we're breaking down. Now, the next step is once we act like we're breaking down, we flip directions. And just so you guys know, I'm on Heikin-Ashi candles. That's why I like to use, especially on 1 minute time frames. Once we act like we're going to break out, in this case to the downside, we're waiting for it to flip directions, and then I want to wait for confirmation. So what I personally like to use for confirmation is I add this indicator called Williams VIX Fix. So if you just type in Williams VIX Fix bottoms and tops, add that in. I use default settings. You can see it'll show up right here. What we're waiting for, if I zoom in here, these green bars here basically represent momentum and volatility. Okay. Now once volatility dies down, you'll see the bars go from green to gray. Right? Now, when we get a gray bar, it'll print a pink candle on your chart. Now, what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for price action to close above this pink candle. To me, that's confirmation. Okay, that's confirmation to enter the trade once we close above that pink candle. You can see we never closed above it on this candle here, so there's no confirmation yet. Okay, so as you can see, what happened? We come back down again, we get another green bar, another volatility spike. These people get stop hunted, right, from this move. And then what happens? Volatility immediately drops, which signifies that sellers are getting exhausted and they're running out of momentum. Okay, because you can see the momentum is literally dying on these gray bars. This gray bar printed a green candle. Now we're waiting for price action to close above this pink candle, which it looks like it did around right in this area, right? And this is confirmation. This is where we'd want to go long. Okay, again, I'm not going short, even though this trade would have worked because the momentum of the market is flowing up. Okay, so I only like to trade this with the 15-minute trend. Okay, so in this case scenario, this is what this trade would look like. Once we get the confirmation, we can go long. Looks like it was probably around right here where we closed above that pink candle, or maybe even right here. Put our stop on that low, and then we trade it up to the other side of the orb. This wasn't the best risk reward, but still gave us a positive 1.2 risk reward on this trade. Okay, and you can see the market started flowing up the rest of the day. Now, I typically will just trade it to the other side. I don't hold it later on because I have other setups where I can trade, pullbacks once we're above the orb. So I do have multiple setups. I trade with the opening range. The failed breakout, I trade it from one side to another. Okay, that's kind of how I do this. Right, so that was today on ES. Now let's go back to NQ. And again, NQ just didn't get close enough, so that's why I didn't take it on NQ. Now, if we go back here to yesterday, again, we're not going to cherry pick days. I'm just going day by day. As you can see, what happens here, we have the 15-minute opening range. We can see the trend isn't super clear, but as long as we hold above like this 850 area, then longs do look more favorable. So you can see this 850 area is right here. I personally like, when the EMAs are kind of in this area, because this is where I want price action to come to so I can trade it long. So in this case, I'd probably ignore this day. I would take one of my other setups where we can trade pullbacks once we get above the orb, for example, or retest of the orb, which we never got this day. But that would be an example. So again, these do not set up every day, okay? That's the only downside of the setup, but when it does set up, I can trade it with full confidence, knowing it has really good results, right? This day, as you can see, the high and low were here. And if we go back to the previous day, we'd be more interested in longs this day. In this case, only a short setup popped up. As you can see, we never got confirmation to go long. So we skipped that day, no trades that day. This is a holiday, so I don't trade holidays. This is Juneteenth last week. And we go back to the next day. As you can see, there's no trades once again, right? As you can see, we never came down to that bottom range. So keep going to this day, all right? This is last Tuesday, June 17th. Let's go look at it on a 15-minute time frame. As you can see, the overall direction is up as long as we're holding above this last yellow line, which is a 200 moving average. I want to focus on longs, right? The market is flowing to the upside until we break this yellow line. Okay, so now that we know we want to focus on longs, we want to wait for the sell side, right? The bottom of the orb to act like it's going to break out and flip direction and wait for that confirmation. Okay, that's really the only step. So in this case, again, we know we're looking for longs, right? Let's delete this. And now we're just waiting on this setup. What happens here? We got the high and we got the low. As you can see, we come down to the bottom of the range. We act like we're going to break out. Momentum, volatility is picking up. What happens? Sellers get exhausted. They start to quit. Momentum, volatility dies down. We get this pink candle. Now we're waiting for price action to close right above this pink candle right here. Okay, you can see it did that right on this candle, and now we're trading it to the other side. So our trade would look something like this. We get in at the top of this candle, put our stop right on the lows, and we trade it to the other side. This gave us a direct one-to-one risk reward. Okay, so it kind of just depends how volatile we are. Sometimes we'll be able to enter, more towards the bottom of the orb where my red circle is, and we'll get like a 3 risk reward or a 2 risk reward. In this case, we closed near the midline, so we only got that 1-to-1, which is still fine. Let's go back to another day. We'll give you a few more examples just so you can really see how this works. Okay. As you can see, this day there was no trade examples. I'm going to focus on long, and we never faked out the downside. All right, so we'll go back to the next day. Again, this only sets up 1 to 2 times per week. Here should be a good example. Friday, pretty sure I took this trade. Okay, so let's see. It looks like the trend is flowing up, right? Market structure is up in the pre-market. We want to focus on longs today. We acted like we were going to break down, right? Break out to the downside. And what happens here is we start getting our setup. Okay, so you can see we want to wait till we get to the red line. We got to the red line around right here, and momentum started dying down. It just barely died down. You can see from this gray candle, if I make this a little bit bigger, right? We got our pink candle right here. Now, again, we're waiting for price to close above this pink candle. This candle never closed above it. Okay, you can see we want to close above the top of the candle, not the body, the top of the candle. This candle never closed above it. Now we continue waiting. We want to wait for proper confirmation. As you can see, we get another pink candle here, never closed above it. We come down again. We stop hunt these people. What happens? More volatility comes in. It starts to die down. Sellers get exhausted, which means the market will naturally flow back up. And as you can see, well, this is technically a pink candle. You just can't see it because the body's so small. But you mainly just want to look from where the bars turn from green to gray, which it did right here. We're waiting for price to close above. Okay, this is a proper close above right here. And now we can simply, on this trade, we're going to have a way better risk reward. Like I was kind of saying before, it just depends where we enter, right? If we enter right here, the top of this candle, we put our stop on the lows, right? And we can take it all the way to the top of the opening range. And look at this. This is a 3 RR, okay? Super clean, nice trade here. So that means your winner is going to be 3 times bigger than your loser here. And guys, one last thing I want to share with you is, like I said before, I have an indicator that automatically prints out the high and low of the first 15 minutes of price action. Now, not only does it do that, but I was able to code it so it also reads all these confirmations, all of these rules automatically for you, and it'll print a buy or a sell signal. So for example, if we go back to that trade that I just showed you, this 3R risk reward trade, right? You can manually look at it and manually look at all the rules. Or like I said, I basically just put all this into an indicator, so it makes it a lot easier. So as you can see, if I just pull up my indicator, it's called the failed breakout. You can see it's created by me, right? I'm gonna add this to my chart and check this out, right? We get a beautiful buy signal exactly where we would have entered if we did this manually, right? It prints out a beautiful buy signal and it tells you where to get long. And like I said, it basically just does all of this for you. So if you guys want to get access to this indicator, all you have to do is go over to my website, otsignals.com. Like I said, you'll be able to just add this indicator to your chart and you'll be able to have it right here. We call it the OTS failed breakout. And if you join OTS, you'll also get 2 other indicators included with the failed breakout as well, that trade the opening range retest and the pullbacks above the opening range. So we have 3 indicators total that you can get access to. The failed breakout is one of them. It's my favorite indicator that I've ever created. Like I said, the results are very good. It tells you exactly where to get into your trade. And then obviously you can set your target and your stop loss just manually based on where the last low was and where that opening range high is.
Shout out to Chad to say thank you for coming up with the OTS signals indicator. It's been great. I've used it all week. Took 4 trades. I won all 4 trades. So if you're struggling or having trouble with trading, this is a thing you should definitely look at.
Chad's trades, his indicator has done really well. Not saying it's perfect, but it has a very high win rate. Just today, for example, there was a flip around here, his indicator, that hit twice. And so I took that trade and it took a little while, but it panned out. And today was a plus $500 day. So highly recommend it, couldn't recommend it more.
What I really love though is that the signals keep me out of trouble. I don't overtrade, I don't chase, I just wait for the setup, follow the plan, and just trust the process. Chad's extremely disciplined and it rubs off on all of us in the Discord, and that's why I stick with the OTS. It works, it's structured, and it's helping me level up big time.
Anyways guys, if you want to learn more about the indicator, get access to these buy and sell signals on your chart, all you have to do is go over to otsignals.com. It makes it a lot easier, especially psychologically. Kind of gives you more confidence that, you know, the trade is in place. So a lot of people have been getting good results with them, enjoying them. It helps with their psychology. They don't feel like they have to FOMO into trades because they're simply just waiting for the buy and sell signals to appear. Again, I just showed you how to do it manually without using the indicator that I created. But if you want to make it easier for yourself and your psychology, that's why I created these buy and sell signals for. Like I said, just go over to otsignals.com. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in my next video with another day trading lesson.